Hello there, Coborn Knope here, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing episodes 7 and 8 of Maul Shadow Lord. Now unfortunately at this point I have seen the finale as I've not been able to keep up with the reviews as I've been pretty busy. So during this video I'm not going to add any speculation, I'm just going to purely focus on the episode itself. So the episode begins with Devon and Riley following Maul as they escape the Inquisitor. Devon still does not trust Maul at all and is sticking around for the sake of keeping herself and Riley alive. They're better off being with Maul than without him, with the Inquisitors chasing them. Maul mentions the fact that he has a transport that could take all of them off-world, which it seems like Devon probably considers as long as she could get her master and Captain Lawson on board, but she claims to Riley that she's obviously not going to consider that option. We then have a quick scene between Captain Lawson and Master Daki. Lawson is clearly distressed since being separated from his son. They've all become prey to the Empire, but Master Daki assures him that their paths will cross again as he's connected to his Padawan through the Force. Lawson blames himself for the fact that Riley is even in this situation to begin with, but Daki proceeds to comfort him. I do really enjoy the dynamic between these two. We cut back to Devon speaking to Maul, and Maul's master is brought up. Now, Maul reveals that his master is still alive, but doesn't actually reveal that it's Sidious. I'm not too sure why he doesn't at this point. Maybe he's finding it hard enough to convince Devon to join him in the first place, so maybe mentioning that his master is the evil emperor ruling the galaxy, the one responsible for killing all the Jedi, will probably put Devon off ever considering to join Maul. When we get to the hideout, we find out that obviously Maul isn't offering a way out of the kindness of his heart. Again, he's given Devon the illusion of choice, that she's free to go whenever she pleases. However, when Riley and Devon decide to slip away and try to escape, Maul stops them in their tracks. Maul then proceeds to angrily try to convince Devon to join him, and clearly fumbling it. I mean, with the upbringing he's had, the training he's received, anger and hatred is all he knows, so he's clearly really struggling to play the long game of getting Devon as his apprentice. He has no patience and he struggles to be compassionate, so when attempting to come across as kind and trustworthy and it not working in his favour straight off the bat, he gets frustrated about it so easily, which I suppose is the penultimate flaw of Maul. Just as they begin to duel, the Empire shows up and they immediately go back to being allies for the sake of survival. Now, Devon's main priority and mission was to keep Riley safe. However, during this scene she has a choice of fighting the Empire with Maul or retreating with Riley for the sake of their safety. So essentially she's picked to attack over defend, which isn't a very Jedi thing to do. Now, I feel like if this was during the Clone Wars, Devon would have made the correct choice. I think a big part of Devon's potential path to the dark side is the times. Devon's clearly struggling with the Jedi path at this point, especially knowing that the Jedi pretty much don't exist anymore. There's no more Jedi Order, so she probably feels the need that she has to evolve with the times, and the Jedi teachings are just not going to work during the reign of the Empire. So it's very easy for her to give in to hatred and frustration towards the Empire. So due to that decision, Riley is taken from the Empire, and Devon then has a second chance to make the right choice of staying with Maul or fleeing back to her master. She reunites with Daki and Captain Lawson, and Lawson forms a plan to get Riley back. Captain Lawson sets out to save his son Riley. Master Daki believes that if him and Devon leave, that might make things easier for the Lawson family. However, Devon rightfully points out that they can't abandon him. I'm not too sure why Daki thought that would work, to be honest. It's clear the Empire are ruthless and will stop at nothing to get what they want. We get a brief scene like the last previous episodes where some of the Mandalorian mercenaries are clearly not loyal to the cause and Maul's long-time plan. They're only in it for the credits, and it doesn't seem like they'll be sticking around for long. We catch up with Riley, who's currently handcuffed back at the police station, and Two Boots is still as ignorant as ever. He's still following through all these Imperial protocols. The rest of the episode then follows Maul and his syndicate attempting to leave. Now, I'm not too sure whether at this point Maul is actually willing to just leave Devon. From his point of view, she's clearly too loyal to Master Daki, and the Empire is increasingly becoming a threat to Maul. Now, the action sequences and visuals just look amazing as always in this show. Maul now has to deal with two Inquisitors on his own, and the injured leg, which I thought had magically vanished, has actually come to play, and we are now seeing the consequences of that. So the second Inquisitor was introduced at the start of this episode, and there's of course the Crow Inquisitor that was introduced in Tales of the Jedi. It's such a terrifying design, but I just kind of wish there was something that separated the Crow and Marek personality wise. But I suppose maybe that's the point, they're just here to serve as a function, and they're just these emotionless predators who hunt down whoever Vader pleases. We finally see the Mandalorian mercenaries betray Maul and the Syndicate. They see their opportunity to escape rather than stay and help the rest of the Syndicate, using the transport that was supposed to take the entire Syndicate. Lutey nearly gets on the transport, but luckily he doesn't because they are blown to pieces almost instantly. But then this of course causes the issue of having no transport for the Syndicate. So Maul, due to his injury, is beginning to struggle with the Inquisitors. Now it does confuse me a little bit of how powerful the Inquisitors actually are. Now I know Maul is injured here, and I suppose he was when he was fighting Marek, but it wasn't so obvious. Ahsoka was able to take both the Crow and Marek out so easily. Of course she's sporting no injury, but I would have thought Maul, being a Sith Lord, would have been able to take out at least one of the Inquisitors. But I suppose it all depends on what's needed for the story. There's a point in the duel when Maul is about to get struck down, however one of the Knight brothers sacrifices himself in order to give Maul just a moment to get back on his feet. Maul is clearly really angered by this. Whether it's because he truly cares for the Knight brother, I don't know. Could just be because it reminds him of Savage. Icarus screams out for his brother. I just wish we knew more about them, other than the fact that they're brothers. I don't care too much about the fact that this character died, or even if we just got more scenes of the brothers interacting. But anyway, this sacrifice gives Maul the opportunity to escape, and the episode ends quite abruptly. We don't go back to see the main cast of heroes, but luckily they're releasing 2 episodes at a time, so we can just jump into the next one. So Maul escapes, but is separated from his Syndicate. Rook tells the others that he's lost, and Lutey makes an amusing comment of going on without him. Collectively, they choose to get to a rendezvous point out of range of the Empire, and hopefully somewhere where Maul can catch up and meet them. Maul wakes up from being unconscious, and this is the start of him kind of becoming loopy for the rest of the episode. He comes across a puddle and sees his past self and claims that he hates them. Whether this is because he sees his past self as weak or hates himself for allowing Sidious to take him away, who knows? We then cut to Riley, who's about to be interrogated by the Crow Inquisitor. The Crow's design is just so terrifying, I can't even imagine how scared Riley is in that scene. In an attempt to try and make contact with Two Boots, Captain Lawson receives a call from Rena, who claims that she has a transport ready, but they all have to get there within 2 hours, giving Lawson less time than he wanted to attempt to get Riley out, so he's pretty desperate at the minute. We cut back to the police station where Two Boots is beginning to realise that the Empire aren't what they seem. They're not following the protocols like he thinks they are. I mean, he was convinced that Chief Khalees is still alive, and an officer had to break it to him that the Empire has definitely killed her off. He then sees Riley looking really depressed. I mean, he had just been interrogated by an Inquisitor. So the pieces are slowly coming together for Two Boots. He then receives a call from Captain Lawson, who proceeds to make a deal with Two Boots that he's willing to hand himself in if Two Boots breaks Riley out, because Captain Lawson is one of the main fugitives that the Empire are after. Now, the fact that Two Boots agrees to this and doesn't just want to help Riley out anyway kind of goes against his redemption, I think. He's still not in my good books, to be honest. Had Lawson just asked for his assistance and Two Boots agreed, then that would have been through his own choice, but he only seems to agree to this because it won't upset the Empire. Once the deal is made, Devon is told to split off to find transport, as they're likely to come across trouble and he'll need a quick escape. So we cut back to Maul, who is seeing illusions of past memories. We see a flashback of his younger self with Savage Press begging him not to go, while Sidious takes him. And it kind of reminded me of the scene in Interstellar, where he's seen his past self and is clearly regretting having made the choice to leave. We then see how brutal Sidious was with training, which I mean is to be expected from him. We then see flashes of pivotal points of his life. So we see the moment Obi-Wan defeats him. We see how deranged he became during the Clone Wars, how Sidious took Savage away from him. And it's clearly very distressing for Maul to, I suppose, live through all that again. Now, as cool of a scene as this was, I didn't entirely get the point of it, to be honest. His anger and hatred towards Sidious is what's been fueling him post-Clone Wars anyway, so I don't know whether this was just to give himself the power to carry on after being defeated by the Inquisitors and help him with his injury. I don't necessarily think it's healing him, but I think it's just essentially giving him motivation to carry on. and pursue his revenge for Sidious. We then get an amusing scene of Devon taking a speeder away from people who clearly underestimated her. Two Boots then frees Riley, which involves him stunning stormtroopers. The Lawsons are then briefly reunited before Captain Lawson reveals he's gonna turn himself in. But the Empire come out and immediately begin attacking them, which leads Two Boots to join the gang of heroes. Now, whether or not he would have joined anyway, I don't know. Again, I feel like he would have went through the deal had he not been shot at, and therefore I don't think he's actually fully been redeemed, in my eyes at least. We then get the start of a pretty cool chase scene as Devon pilots the speeder that she took earlier, and they're on hot pursuit of LAATs and speed bikes as well. The scene's accompanied with pretty cool music as well, which I really enjoyed, which I'm assuming is supposed to be in-universe music as well, which is pretty cool. We then cut back to Maul, who was seemed to have forgiven his past self, which maybe seeing the events of his life from an outside perspective changed his thoughts. But whatever the case, these visions haven't really helped him overall, I think. His goal is still to seek revenge on Sidious. However, he claims that he won't let this happen to anyone ever again, which at first sounds like a nice and heroic thing to say, like he's going to go out of his way to save anyone from Palpatine, when realistically what he means by that is he just wants to kill Sidious. But if we didn't know Maul's fate, this could have been the start of a redemption maybe, that he needs to start letting his anger go and focus more on saving people from Sidious than fighting Sidious, kind of picking defense over attack. But the tragic thing with Maul's character is that he can never let go of his hate. He then proceeds to reunite with his syndicate. Our heroes then proceed to make their way to the location of Rena's transport. However, they discover it's actually a trap before falling into it and make a quick escape. Rena herself clearly didn't want to betray Lawson and gave him the hint of the fact that she's been compromised. And then again, she proceeds to fight the Empire a second time and potentially has sacrificed herself, which would be unfortunate because we've not really spent a lot of time with her and she sounded like quite an interesting character. So who knows, she might pop up in the future. The episode then ends with the Syndicate entering Demas's old office, where Lutey begins to act quite menacingly. He receives a call from Crimson Dawn and reveals to Maul and everyone else that Dryden Voss requires an audience, which I imagine Dryden Voss will show up at some point. But I mean, he's timed it very well because the Syndicate are in need of assistance of escaping Janix. Overall, this was a pretty exciting couple of episodes, quite action-packed, and we get to see more of Maul, who was surprisingly lacking in the last couple of episodes. I think what surprised me the most is that we still have Master Daki at this point. I mention it every video, but I really just thought he was going to die straight off the bat in the first episode. So he's done well to survive this far. Devon is still struggling with being a Jedi, although she still seems to follow most Jedi teachings. The Empire is still increasingly becoming more threatening, and we still don't know who Marek was speaking to at the end of chapter 6. But so far this show has been amazing. But that's all from this video. Let me know what your thoughts on these episodes are. Feel free to check the description for links to other socials. Thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.